Alright, here we go. Finally. Got it up and running. Got it to working. Okay. Oh boy. What a day. That's just par for the course. Alright. Well, we're not going to wait 15 minutes to start. That's usually what I do on Tuesdays. I usually start that up while I'm winding down watching one of my favorite YouTube streamers over at Build Paint Play with Dave Taylor and Jake Krajewski, who are at Nova Open this weekend. So, that's pretty cool. Other cool things this weekend are you can get the Nova Open orange paint from Monument Hobbies this weekend, both at the convention and online. So check that out. If you like Monument Hobbies the way I like Monument Hobbies, check out their orange Nova special paint. So check that out. Also, in just another day or so, the Hicks and Hobday Orcs versus Elves Kickstarter will be finishing up. I believe tomorrow it finishes up. So check that out. And I'm going to put it in here over at the YouTube chat. Put that in there. So check that out. I think you'd really enjoy it. It's a little on the expensive side since it is in pounds. But there's something for every price point. If you just want a couple of the special figures, I think you can get a squad for not too bad of a price. Let's see what they got here. Orcs versus Elves. Hobday and Hicks, they're going to be basing it on the Barons War, which is a historical skirmish rule set, but they are going to be adding fantasy elements with their Orcs versus Elves. So let's see. Let's see. Let's see what they've got. They've got orcs. They've got elves. They got war hosts that you can get. You can get all in one of everything. If you if you spend £500, which is a little over $600, you would get a sculpt of yourself. I don't know how many of those they have left. There's a special. There was a special miniature for 24 hours. There was a reward level on that, but they've got a dwarf warrior that they're going to add in because they've got over 40,000 pounds. They've raised 52,000 pounds out of 39,000 goal, so they are they're well on track here. They've added some stretch goals. They've got Athicus the Chronicler. Very cool human. They've got some fantasy humans. I think they've got, let's see, they got a mountain troll. Very cool. Their stuff is it would work very well with the Middle-earth strategy battle game. Or the Tom Meyer Thunderbolt Mountain Elves. So, elven warriors with spear and shield. So, 22 pounds. So, that's like $30. $27.50, I think. Command group is 10 pounds, so like $17.50, $15, something like that. Elven heavy cavalry. Only get 4 of those for 20 pounds though. But they're gonna the retail price is gonna be changing obviously, so you're getting a little bit of a good deal on these. Elf war host, 160 pounds, which for RRP is going to be 207 pounds. So you're definitely getting a savings there. So that would be like 160. That's like $186. So all in deal, 338 pounds, which I think is about 400 and some odd bucks. But I mean, you really would be saving if you got in on those. And then unique sculpt by Paul Hicks. So add yourself into Hobday and Hicks Fantasy World by having yourself sculpted by Paul Hicks, following his guidelines, Andy Hobday will then work with you to create a profile so you can lead your choice of war host to victory. So that's pretty cool. But they are almost, this is almost closing out. This has got, how much? This has got 42 hours left to go. So we are at the 42-hour mark. So this closes out on Friday or Saturday. Of course, I think they're running off of British time. Whatever Greenwich Mean Time, maybe. I don't know. London time. But 42 hours left. So I will probably support this. It'll be very little because I spent all together too much money getting the components, some of the components, for a project I want to do for the Worthy competition for Atomic Mass next year at Adepticon. So I'll probably spend a little, but only because these guys are pretty cool. I got to visit with them a little bit at Adepticon last year. This past Adepticon, not last year, just this past Adepticon. And I was always teasing them when they were on the Footsore Miniatures live stream for Instagram. I always teased them about making samurai riding dinosaurs. So now that could actually work both ways. It could be samurai riding dinosaurs or samurai riding dinosaurs. See what I'm saying? So samurai riding dinosaurs, they could be dinosaurs that ride samurais. Or they could be samurai that ride on dinosaurs. I don't know that the samurai would hold up too well with dinosaurs riding them, though. But anyway, I'll stop the gob flapping here, flapping my gums. Anyway, if you're wondering what I'm talking about, the Hobday and Hicks Elves versus Orcs Kickstarter is a great. Got a pretty good deal going on there, so check that out. And I don't get any remuneration for talking about their stuff. They were handing these out. This was a kind of a preview, so they were handing that out at the Badger Games booth last year. This past one. Hey DD, thanks for the lurk. I appreciate it, man. Even if you're not in here, you're lurking, and that means a lot. So they were handing those out. I knew there was a Kickstarter coming up. I didn't know that if I had seen it or not, but anyhow, it just so happened that I started painting this and the Kickstarter came out. I really didn't time it. They didn't time it. We don't work together. I don't get any kind of monetary consideration for putting this out there and talking about their Kickstarter. I just like them as people. I like their product. And as you know, I talk about the things that I like. That's all there is to it. So that's it. Yeah, is it free advertising? Okay, yeah, but I think some people get all itchy about it on YouTube sometimes. Twitch, we're a little bit cooler over here. So anyhow, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my magnifying visor on. Magnifying glasses. Magnifying visor. Put my eyes on here. So we got DD over here lurking on the Twitch, which is great. I really appreciate that. If you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and give us a like if you're watching over there. Share, subscribe if you're not subscribed. So I'd like to see where this guy's eyes are. It's a little bit difficult. This sculpt is a little strange between the eyes. It looks like they're kind of looking down, but it looks like they're also kind of high here. So I'm just going to go ahead and throw a little slash of white where I think the eyes are. And I'm not going to get too fancy with it, even though I have been a little fancier than usual with some wet blending and the like. And I could take these highlights even higher if I wanted to, but I don't think I will. I think I'll just I think I will just do what I'm doing and not worry about it. I think I like where it is. It's a nice kind of, it's in between. It's not really two-tone, but um, it's just kind of, it's going from that dark blue, and I'm kind of fading up here. There was definitely some wet blending going on here and here. And I guess I could even take it a little bit higher and go to a much lighter blue way up here on these really high areas, but I think I like it like this. It makes it just a little bit darker. Um, yeah, so I think I'll just go with what there is there. And I'm using the Insane Detail brush from the Army Painter here. And I'm just going to just do a couple little white slashes here. It's time for another eye checkup before too long. I think this prescription is going bad. Now, I really think that his eyes were down here, actually, but why would his eyes be downcast looking down when he needs to be looking out? So I'm saying this is his eye over here, and if his eye was supposed to be down here on this side, well, that's a problem. So we're going to make sure his eyes are across from each other. So we're just going to let that be as it is and let that dry up. Won't take too long. Well, I might use that just to do the pupils. But I wasn't really going to. It's not really necessary to do that much work on his skin or on his face even. Especially if he was going to be rank and file. I don't think I would worry about painting his eyes. But since this is the only one I have of him, I think I will paint his eyes. So, and then I'm going to go back. I'm going to highlight his skin a little bit. Just because when I did that wash, it kind of darkened it up a little bit much. So I'm going to go ahead and just touch it up. And I'm using the Insane Detail brush. I really don't need to. It's just so small. And it's what I have in my hand already. So add a little water. And we'll just kind of get that up there. Don't want to load it up too far because it's just a little tiny brush. Only problem is with teeny tiny brush, sometimes teeny tiny brushes, they dry out a little too fast and you can't get any paint onto the figure. But that's okay. We'll work with it. We'll do what we can. We will do what we can. And I'm gonna highlight his chin a little bit. I want to bring this skin back to match the skin on his hands, is the idea. So, alright, we got an ad going up, turning on over here on the Twitch in 5 minutes or so. Which that's happened. That happens sometimes. But just want to kind of highlight his cheeks and at the top of his, like a little bit of his nose that I can see here. Top of his chin, his chinny chin. Not much more I can do there with him. Let's get a little bit of this black here. And I was going to try using rapidograph pens to do his irises, to do his eyes, but I decided not to do that. So, thought about it, but because I've never used rapidograph pens to do eyes yet, I think I'm just going to go ahead and just go old school, which is not really the old school way that I normally do eyes, quite honestly. So then I'll take a little bit of that flesh, and I'm just going to clean it up a little bit, because that's a little bit more than I wanted right there. So just clean that up. Open that back up just a little bit. Get that off of his pupil there. I don't know if it's my eyes or if it's my goggles here that are messing me up. I had to ditch my glasses here. It was too much. Too much. Just put a little dot of white on each side of that big old iris that somehow just got out of control on me. Just kind of try to bring that back into some realm of realism. just a little. Right there. Just give him a little shadow at the top of the eye. Same thing over here. Much better. Much better. Much, much better. Keep on putting this in the shadow, and that's no good for the camera there. We'll go ahead and get some wash here. Just do a little flesh wash and kind of hopefully get the eyelid kind of a little more defined there. Just a little more defined. Just a little more defined. And then I can wipe a little bit of that away so it's not quite down on his cheek so much. Right. Then I'm going to go old school, and I'm just going to give a little black line right here where his helmet meets his head. Right there. Again, black lining right here by his nasal. That's the part of the helmet that covers the nose. It's actually called the nasal. Makes sense, right? And I got a little too much black right there on his eye. I bobbled the bubble there. All right. So I think I'm going to call his face done. I'm not going to fight that anymore. Close enough, right? Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and get the basing worked on. We're going to do the basing here. And I showed this figure off as a work in progress last week on Build Paint Play. Jake made an interesting comment. He said, "Got to put a tactical rock underneath this guy's foot." So, see how this foot is raised up at an angle? I think I'm going to stick a tactical rock underneath there. Or a tactical rock. Maybe it's a tactical rock. Yeah. Not just a tactical rock, but a tactical rock. So, so let's get the old JP's Magic Mix out here. And I call it JP's Magic Mix because I made it. I've got 3 different sizes of grit in here, and some of them are still a little bit too big, but they fill up space well. And there's little pieces of kitty litter, and unused, by the way, just in case anybody wants to say that. And then yeah, so we're gonna put a tactical rock right here for this guy's foot to be resting on. So see if we can get one to fit. Yeah. So I think we got a tactical rock that will fit. Tactical rock, mission accomplished. So we'll get a little bit of the old super duper glue here. And we'll use a medium super glue. We'll go ahead and break it up a little bit so we can get some out there. And we'll get our pokey tool and clear the nozzle on this this stuff here. Oh, for crying out loud. Knocking things off the old desk. Why? Because I got it clear. Ah! I'm catching stuff in my what do you call this thing? On my head. This doggone thing on my head. What is it? It's my visor. I'm getting things caught in it as I lean down to pick things up off the floor that I keep knocking down. I get it from my cat, folks. I learned how to knock things off of desks from the best. So I'm trying to get the pokey tool to go through this cured up plug of what do you call it? Super glue. Trying to get that through there. I have a hard time talking sometimes. I don't know why. I know what I want to say. Part of the problem is I don't have my face cam here, so you can't see what's going on. And so I have to do a play-by-play for everything. And it is, I don't know why my eyes are not focusing. Even with the visor on. Sucks being 50 years old, I'll tell you what. Absolutely irritating. A few years ago, I started to notice my eyes not focusing in for doing miniatures, and that was very concerning. So I finally got around to going to the eye doctor. He gave me a prescription that I don't like. It sucks for driving. Unless I'm looking straight through, it just makes me mad. I think he was going crazy. I think he was going senile. He was an older guy. Eye doctor was just older, and I think he was going senile. I don't know. Here, he made it easy to work because I can see at arm's length pretty well for doing my work, but I'll tell you what, doing miniatures it is not. Again, I'm starting to get I'm getting a short arm disease, right? I can't see really. I have to back off a little bit, but then I can't see super fine detail. Or I can, but it's just out here where I can't do anything. And my lighting's too harsh here. I got to put a bag over this light. I got to get my lucent light set up. Oh my goodness, so much things to do. So many things to do. Just come on. Pokey tool, get through the encrusted super glue. Oh my goodness. I'll tell you what. It does it. It does the job. And as long as you don't have super glue up on the nozzle. Alright, it's in. It did it. But the plastic of the bottle has got so much elasticity to it that I think it's going to seal up the pathway for this thing. So pokey tool from Reaper, like $5. which you could just get a regular T-pin from like the sewing section at Walmart or Joann's or Michael's or wherever you go. But there it is. I mean, that's pretty cool. They've got the one with the skull on it, and they've got the one with the dragon on it. But anyhow, so I found the tactical rock I'm going to use. Put a little dab of super duper glue here, or cyanocrylic, really, because super glue is actually a trademark. So but we're going to do that. So we've got the tactical rock, and then we're going to add a little bit more goo on here. And I'm going to take him off the base, or off the holder. That way I don't get grit down in my hobby holder there. And we're just going to go ahead and let this sand build up. I might even put another little rock sticking out over here. Give the base a little bit of balance. Tell a story. Little rocky field there. You know. Hey, Dylan. How's it going? I'm back like a butt crack. Awesome. Glad to have you back. So I am working on finishing up the this elf from Hobday and Hicks Kickstarter, which has 42 hours yet to go. Probably 41 now. So here is a link if you want to check it out. It's really cool. So there's a link. Feel free to check that out. I think you'll really enjoy it. There is there's an offering for every budget, but I don't get any kind of remuneration or consideration for talking about it, other than I was given this figure at Adepticon past, and it just so happens that it was in the queue at the same time that their Kickstarter went live, so why not talk about it and use it as a little bit of a showing people what I dig, and maybe they'll dig it too, and get some cool figures out of the deal, you know. And like, the reason I like this figure, and the reason I like the Hobday and Hicks figures, is that they would go very nicely with the Middle-earth strategy battle game figures, and they would also go nicely with the Tom Myers Thunderbolt Mountain Miniatures elves that you can get from Ralpartha Legacy. So get you a squad of these guys, get you some dudes from Ralpartha Legacy, the Thunderbolt Mountain guys. Be pretty cool. But I don't get any kind of consideration for talking about this stuff. I just talk about it because I like it. Well, you're a content creator, therefore you're an influencer. I don't think I've ever influenced anybody to do anything. I've put the word out about things, but I do not seek to influence anybody. They to scale for D&D? Sure. Well, I mean, what is the D&D scale anyway, right? The official figures are really all over the place if you want to get right down to it. But yeah, I mean the thing is they're on 1 inch bases, or that's a 1 inch base. Scale for D&D, honestly, that depends on you. Quite honestly, you're influencing you to paint. Well, that's good. I do want to influence people to engage in the hobby. Um, that's what this channel is about, is to help people get into the hobby, um, to give good hobby advice. And so I developed this channel for 2 reasons. One, to help me paint, to help me have a dedicated day and time that I have to do hobbying, right? And then 2, if I was going to do this, it was also, I wanted it to benefit other people. So hobby questions, I usually have enough going on my desk to where I can pivot and show somebody a method or a technique that can be used for helping them do their stuff. So I'm gonna set JP's magic mix aside here, and I'm gonna get some. I've got some fine ballast here from the hobby store, from Hobby Town. I think I got it. Where is that fine ballast? It's a little bit finer grit. Oh, I'm losing my mind, I swear. I swear I'm losing my mind. I've got it here. Here it is. Here it is. Oh, I put it way over here. I put it where the flock is, not where the grit is. So much for being organized. Well, I am organized. It's just I have the flock over here and the grit over here, and the grit was on the flock shelf instead of being on the grit shelf. So, adding rocks and dirt to the base for terrain purposes. Yes, I am Dollar Dylan. Now, I could just use white glue and do it, but because I want to get done, I'm using super glue or cyanoacrylic glue. And so that's a little on the thick side. That's a medium viscosity. So I'm going to get the thin stuff here, and I'm going to use the thin stuff to do this so it flows in those cracks a little bit more. And it just gives a nice finish to the figure when you do the base. So a nice finish to the figure when you do the base like this. Now that went all over the place. That was just one drop. So now I don't want there to be quite so much. So I'm going to take this beater brush here, and I'm going to push this around a little bit. And try, because I don't want it to be humped up. When it humps up around the outside edge of the base, it makes it look weird. So I like to have a nice taper down to the edge of the base. But I'm going to ruin this brush in the process, obviously. I think I've used this brush to do this before because it's very stiff. So it's definitely got cyanoacrylic in it. So now I could try to get some on the part of his base that's right between his feet, but I don't really feel comfortable trying to get in there past the figure. So what I'm going to do is after that glue dries, after the super glue dries, I'm going to go back over with a little white glue and we're going to put some flocking on there. So flocking, or even static grass, it's kind of an interchangeable terms, flocking and static grass. That's what she said. um, so you can use flocking. Flocking is a little bit more, it's chopped up colored foam is what flocking is. So this is flocking right here. And it's a little bit shorter and springier, right? It just looks like this. So that's flocking. And it's very, you could use this more on mechs and small scale things, but it also makes a nice ground cover for terrain bits and the like. And you can see sometimes it gets a little clumpy in there, so that's okay. Just adds texture, but that's just that's actual flocking. And then aside from just flocking, there's other things. There's what's called static grass. And this example of static grass is kind of like more straw colored. Quit knocking things off of the desk, JP. Clean up the desk. I wouldn't knock things off so much. I learned how to knock things off my desk from my cat. He's really good at it. I'm just an amateur. So this is what's called static grass. And as you can see, it's more fiber. So what you do is you put this down, a little bit of adhesive, a little glue. Usually white glue works really well. And then you can blow on it and it'll stand up a little bit. Some people like to use a static grass applicator that gives a little bit of a charge, but I never use quite that much. If I'm doing something large, I usually just use flock and then I'll lock it in with white glue. So that's one sort of static grass. Another thing is static grass tufts. Right? So this is a tuft. This happens to be Army Painter Swamp Tufts. So you've got this stuff, and you peel it off of the backing card there. And let me show you this one. Now this is Games and Gears version of. This is a very bright Battlefield green. It's kind of a fun one, but this is a... I actually stuck one of these to my bookcase and it just stayed there. So this is quite a few little tufts like that. That's a very bright, almost a goblin green. So that's more of a, I would use that more for spring or well-watered lawn or whatever. And then you can see how they stand up. But then these are actually self-adhesive. So I like those as well. But there's nothing wrong with mixing them on a base as well. But like I said, so you notice I had like 3 little rocks on here. So I had the one on the front where he's got his foot. I've got one back here, and then I've got another one back here. When I do my terrain, I have what's called the rule of 3. Because sometimes when you have just one little place of interest, one little point of interest, it's not enough. It will throw the base out of balance. So I like to have 3 things on there that are similar, just to kind of make some lines, kind of tell a story. I don't really have a story to tell per se, but it just kind of places the figure a little more interest. So if I'm looking at it from this angle, I see both of those rocks there. If I'm looking at it from this angle, I see both of these rocks. If I'm looking at it from overhead, I see all 3 rocks. And I try not to, I mean, it's hard. When you're on a circular base like this, everything's going to have a straight line going to it. But I try to avoid anything that's really a straight line. But I'll have these 3 rocks here, and then I'll put a couple of tufts back here. A lot of times I'll put tufts right next to rocks where you would have more soil buildup and the like. So, yeah. Anyhow, we're gonna seeing about doing this up, and I might throw even in. So I've got these flowers. So I've got army painter flowers, and I've got some huge miniatures flowers. Now, huge miniatures is really cool. They are a Ohio company, so I like to support regional companies, because growing up we didn't have gaming as a thing quite so often, quite so much. But anyway, this is huge miniatures, tufts and flowers. So they've got yellow flower tufts. They've got magenta. They've got some blue ones. Here's a warm mix. So I think I'd like to use that warm mix in there. Maybe the red. Maybe that red it would be in, but that red is so big. Those are pretty huge tufts. So maybe a warm mix, but I need to paint the base, paint the grit to get that texture out on it. So, and of course this figure that I'm working on is from the Hobday and Hicks Elves versus Orcs Kickstarter, which at the time of this live stream, there's 42 hours left. Probably 40 hours now. So I checked it before I started, and it was 42 hours. So you got a couple of days left to it. So here is the link to it if you want to check it out. There it is there. And here it is over here on YouTube. Check that out. There you go. All one viewer on YouTube, which is that's actually my phone. I'm using it to monitor the chat over there. So, but anyhow, let me get my palette back over here. We'll put him back on the hobby holder here. That way I can work on getting the colors of the base down. I'm going to start out with, well, I mean, it's not a bad Kickstarter to support. There's a wide array of levels you can support it at. But it is coming from the UK, so remember, there will probably be a little bit extra on the shipping for it. But there's some cool figures there. I like them. I'm probably going to try to get in on it. After work tomorrow, I'll probably put a couple of dollars into it. But I spent some money this week on picking up some parts, picking up some kits to do a project for the Atomic Mass Marvel Crisis Protocol painting competition at Adepticon next year. So I think I will put in for that. See if I'm worthy. So see if I'm worthy. Now, I could dirty this guy up, but seeing as how he's an elf, I don't think elves get dirty very often. Oh, I'm picking up some grit off of there. So something wasn't quite dry yet. I could put white glue over top of all this too and lock it and really seal it in. But the paint will do just fine. But I can feel my paintbrush grabbing a little bit. And this is just a cheapo paintbrush. There's nothing really fancy about it. So I'm going with kind of a dark, middle kind of a color of ground. I usually start out darker, but the dark paint that I've got is, so I usually use like, this is an earth brown, so that's a little darker than that. But what I usually start out with is burnt umber as my base for my ground. But this is so globby that it's hard to come out, and then it just leaves a big old mess on my palette when it does. So I just decided to use the dark chocolate from Americana. So I'll use that dark chocolate, and then if I want to go darker, I'll just use the dark earth there from the Anita's all-purpose acrylic that I just showed you. So I'll use that maybe. But anyway, just basing it up. I want it to be a different color brown than his boots, so I don't want his boots to kind of get blending into the, I want there to be some good contrast. So I may go with a very bright green. Can a picture be sent through Twitch chat? No, unfortunately it can't. But you can send it to me, you can DM it to me through my Instagram if you want. Although I don't know how to put it up on the screen yet. I'm not very technologically adept, I'm afraid. I know there is a way to show pictures on stream that people send to you, but I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to do it yet. Show my latest pickup. Okay, that's cool. You can send it to me through Instagram, or if you're on the Discord. I don't know, Dylan, if you're on the Discord or not, but there's the invite to the Discord, so check that out. Although I have not been seeing a lot of activity on the Discord, and I've not really been checking, quite honestly. It's funny because DD's got a Discord, so I see a lot of his work over on his Discord, and he posted on my Discord, which is fine. Heretic Scott, he's another Discord member. Posts up stuff, but he also posts up stuff on his Instagram. So I don't know. Is Discord a losing proposition? Is it just a waste of time? I mean, there are some things that I use Discord more for than others. Like I'm on the Tabletop Minions Discord. I'm on the C-Dog Game Studios Discord because we need that to be able to function as a game company. And the GMs, DMs, the GMs need to be able to know what we're doing for our games. Various things like that. Unique discussions. I don't have anything unique about my Discord other than the people that are there, which is really what makes the Discord worth having. So, and it's a way for me to reach out to people that are regular viewers. If there's a problem with streaming that night, say I'm out of town, I get called out of town on short notice, I just can put a note in there that says I'm not streaming. So, all right, excellent. Well, keep an eye out on it. If you see me, if you're trying to watch and you notice that I'm not on, I'll usually have a good reason there. Just it's kind of more to let people know what if there's any schedule changes that come up. But it's a good way to post pics, and you can also ask for critiques there, because as a rule, We don't do critiques unless they're asked for. So that is, if you're looking for the critique, put it in the pit. There's just general, if you want to put works in progress or general stuff, there's a place for everything on the Discord there. So all right, I'm going to let that dry, and then we'll do another coat. We'll do a lighter coat of sable brown. We'll pick that up and kind of brighten up that texture a little bit. So just letting paint dry here, so to speak. Let me see how many things I can knock off my desk while we're waiting for the paint to dry. Because that's just how it is. Posted the pick in general chat. Excellent. Pick, not picking. Right, understand. Posted the pick in general chat. Excellent. Excellent. Let's take a look here. I wish I could show it online. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to do that yet. I need to sit down and learn how to do all the things here. So general, here we go. Oh yeah, nice. You picked up the Collector's series, and that is from Gale Force 9. Oh, you're going to have a lot of fun with that one. I think that is actually resin, so be very careful with it, because sometimes you can break a resin figure. Also, if you have to take any flashing or mold lines off, be very careful. You don't want to sand it, really, if you can help it, because sanding will get it into the air, and you do not want to breathe that stuff. So wear a mask and do it outside. But yeah, I think you're going to have a good time with that. 14 resin pieces altogether. So it's going to be the head, 2 wings, legs, body. What else could there be? Maybe the top half of his head. The gold pile that he's on is definitely going to be a piece. Barrock Clanghammer, 2 resin pieces. So it's probably his hand and his body. So his hand with the staff and the body. Aranox is an adult gold dragon. He often assumes the form of an elderly gold dwarf named Barrock Clanghammer, who uses the dragon staff of as a walking stick. This was given to the dragon by Dagalt Neverember, Open Lord of Waterdeep, and has the power to prevent other dragons from entering the city in exchange for the staff. You had to trade the staff to get into the city? No, I missed the punctuation. In exchange for the staff, Aranax promised to guard a vault and its treasures beneath the city until such time as the Neverember or his appointed vassals removed it. As it happens, no one has come to remove the treasure, and the faithful Aranax has remained in the vault. The vault is warded against scrying magic, and no one left in Waterdeep who knows about Aranax or the whereabouts of the dragon staff. Well, I think you're going to have a good time painting that up. For sure. So what I would do is I would actually undercoat it with brown first. So I would use brown primer on it. And I would not spray paint it gold. I would use brown primer and use Pro-Kill Grow. I would build up from Tinny Tin. Actually, Pro-Krill has several colors here. Let's see if I can find it. I don't have any of their metallics. But you're going to want to get Pro-Krill. Go to Goblin Traders and get a Pro-Krill Dark Brass, which is like Tinny Tin. And start out with that. And then you're going to go up to like a bright gold, like maybe this glorious gold. It's a very yellowish red gold. And then after that, you're going to want to go up to, say, an old gold, right? So like a Vallejo old gold. So something like that. And you're just going to want to do it up in layers. But it is in pieces, a bunch of pieces. Yes, it is in a bunch of pieces. This is kind of a figure that is kind of it's more advanced, but you should be able to figure out putting it together. Now there's other ways to do that. You could actually assemble it in sub-assemblies. That way you're not having to go and paint the whole thing all at once. Also, if you do it in sub-assemblies, you may have... So if you just put them together and started painting them, this area here underneath his chest, you could have some problems with. I don't know, does that even show through? I've got a... This is my work phone, so I don't know what's going on here. So, so you might want to do his body, paint that all up. But see, there's also some gaps here. So you may want to fill those gaps before painting it too. So there's lots of different ways to do it. You may do it in sub-assemblies, or you may just go ahead and build it and then paint it. So, but yeah, it is in a bunch of pieces. It's 14 pieces. So that's it's a bit of a challenge. I think you can do it. It's just think of it as a 3-dimensional puzzle, right? But you can do it. I think you can do it. I have faith in you. But so unlike this figure, this dragon is from the Nolzur's line, which they come out of the package already built like this, and they're just PVC. It's just plastic. But what you've got is resin, and resin is a whole nother sort of critter. Need to buy paint and everything. I'm so new at this. Excellent. Well, what I would suggest is for that figure, because it's a gold dragon, I would suggest getting a brown primer. And what I like to use, Dylan, I'll show you here. Let me get over here to my paint rack here. So for brown, what I like to use is Krylon makes this. This is their ultra flat, and this is actually a brown camouflage. This is their camouflage lion. So ultra flat brown camouflage. So that's a really dark, rich brown, especially for something that's going to be gold. It will kind of... Hobby paints are a little bit translucent. Even the opaque ones have a little bit of translucency to them. So you get a little bit of bounce between layers. Yeah, so brown primer, old gold. So start out with tinny tin or some other dark brass color. Go to Goblin Traders, and actually, I tell you what, Dylan, are you gonna be around this weekend? Because if you wanted, we could meet up at now Tinny Tin. You might be able to find that at Hobbytown over at South Point. But if you are gonna be around this weekend, shoot me a DM in the Discord, and we can work out this out. Maybe I could meet up with you at like Goblin Traders or something, or we could go to Goblin Traders or we go to we could meet up at Hobbytown, and I could show you what you need. Now I don't know if Hobbytown still has that line of colors, but I could show you what you need and help you pick out colors if you want. It's up to you. if you're around. I know you're dealing with some family health issues there too, so whatever works for you, Chief. Are they open Sunday? I think they are open Sunday. I could do it Sunday afternoon if that works for you. I don't know what their schedule is for Monday, unfortunately. But Sunday works. Sunday afternoon. Alright, so the base is dry now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to take my small dry brush. My teeny tiny little dry brush here. Monday would work. Yeah, I'm off too on Monday, but I don't know what Goblin Trader's schedule is on Monday. Sometimes they close down for different holidays. So I'm going to just use my dry brush here. And this is a small dry brush. And I'm going to get some of the paint off. Load it up pretty good. And then I want to just check and see how far down unloaded it is. That's almost way too much is off now. So, all right. So then I want to take that. Yeah, just DM me through the through Discord there, and I'll give you a $120 lesson for free. No, I don't even charge for lessons. I don't even know how I would do that. I could. If I was doing classes, I'd probably charge $25 a head. But if it was a 2-hour class, that means I'm only getting $12.50 an hour. That's minimum wage. All right, so I'm just dry brushing the base here, and as you can see you can see that texture coming out there. And it's a little bit more of an overbrush because I left a little more paint on my dry brush than I meant to. And I'm getting some weird fibers in here because house has weird fibers from furniture and clothes and cat and everything as it is. It's interesting. I just figured they would leave the terrain the natural color. You could, but then if I were going to just leave the terrain the natural color, what I would do is I'd probably do a wash over it. But the thing is if you don't paint it, it looks like you've got a toy man stuck in a pile of rocks. So if you actually paint it, it looks more painterly, right? Like a work of art. It kind of ties it all together and gives it a place. It kind of gives it a home, because if you just left it a natural color, you're really not going to. It's not going to look. It's going to look like you just left. It's going to look undone, basically. Oh, I know you're not criticizing. I know. I'm just giving you the explanation as to why we do this. But you could, if it was good enough, like you could even just run strong tone over it, and you might be able to get a nice gradient as well. I know some people have done that, and it works pretty well. I think painting up in layers is the way to go. It makes it a little more painterly looking, a little more artistic. So now, since that was just dry brushing, there's a reason why we do everything, Dylan. So there's a reason for everything we do. But as you progress in the hobby, you'll find what works for you and what doesn't, and what I do might not work for you anymore. You will possibly surpass my skill, as many do. I'm just about the middlest of the road here, as far as my skill level goes. I am very mediocre, average at best, mediocre at worst. So now I just picked up a little bit of that trail tan that I just put down, that really higher, very light tan that I'm using here. And I'm scrubbing it out on my towel there. And I'm just going to do a little light dry brush, even lighter than that last one. So the last one was more of an overbrush. But this is just a little bit more, so I'm getting a little more of a dusty feel to it. And that just really picks out the nice highlights. So yeah. So that's basic basing right there. That's very basic. And it picks out all those little rocks. And because we built up from a dark tone to a much lighter tone, it gives it a nice little gradient. It gives it a little shading there. I don't know if it comes out on the camera or not. 4K camera, but I can't broadcast at 4K because I do not have good the internet. I'm just trying to be the world's most okayest miniature painter. Well, there are several people with that title, so I guess it'd be a race. Can we have the race to the bottom? The race to the middle? Honestly, it's okay to be middle. And the thing is it's not a competition. It's what you enjoy doing, right? So if you get to a place where you're happy with your hobby and it works for you, and it's a place where you can relax and enjoy your life and have something fun to do, kind of gets you out of the everyday, then you've won. You've done your hobby. If you want to progress and you take classes and learn from teachers and learn from people that are really good, and you progress and you make more, if progression is part of your hobby, progression should be part of your hobby. But if it gets to a place where the progression and everything, it becomes more about competition for yourself, that might be, sometimes that can have a deleterious effect. And it's like, well, I want to be better than this person, and then you don't get placement in, you don't place in a competition. That can take away some of your joy. Depends on what kind of personality you are. If you're a very competitive person, that might be your thing. If you're like me and just like to paint figures and just want to put pretty things on the table and have nice things to show off to your friends, that might be where you're at. That's where I am. I am going to be doing a piece for the Worthy, but the reason I'm doing it for the Worthy, for the Atomic Mass games, is because they judge the figure, or they judge your work according to your work. They're not looking to judge it against other pieces. There is like a special prize where they take the best and they judge them against each other. But if I got a gold just for doing my best and according to my own skills, judging my piece against my own skills, and if I wound up with a gold, that'd be amazing. I'd be happy with a bronze. I wouldn't mind a participation trophy. That's okay too. A little recognition goes a long way. But if I medaled, if I got a bronze or a silver or a gold, I wouldn't be unhappy. I'd be over the moon if it was a gold, but I'd be happy with a bronze. It's kind of the what you would call the state fair style judging, where it's according to its own merits. So I think that's pretty cool. So what I'm gonna do now that the this is dried up, so my ground texture is dried up. So what I want to do is I want to pick out these rocks. So these rocks here, some of these rocks, especially this tactical rock where his foot is, I want to make that stand out from all that brown. So I'm gonna make it gray. I'm gonna use a kind of a cool base gray. So this is a basalt gray. This is kind of a bluish based gray, and I'm going to work that up. And I'm going to match the cool tones of his tunic here with some cool tones in this rock. So I'm going to pick that up and just go to town on this rock here. And right there. Just painting the rock. Just to make that tactical rock stand out. But it's okay to be okay, Dylan. It's okay to be okay. And if you're happy with your level of progress after a couple of months, then you have made progress in the hobby. If you try new things, always try new things. Whether it's a new product that will make that might help you do a better job, whatever your definition of a better job might be. If it's a new paintbrush, if it's a new style, if you say, well, I've learned how to do layer ups, let me learn how to paint with glazes, let me learn how to do this, let me do that. If you say, hey, you know what, airbrush is pretty cool, I'm going to learn how to use an airbrush. I've never learned how to use an airbrush. The last time I used an airbrush was in high school, and it did not go well. I could not get it to do what I wanted it to do. But if I were going to use an airbrush, I think I would use it mostly for priming. So I'm not going to necessarily worry about whether or not these rocks are dry. I'm going to go ahead and use some fog gray here. And I'm going to do some highlight, pick up the highlights. And I'm going to, oh my goodness, that's got that ketchup water out there. It's a little intimidating. I wonder if I should start with those regular minis I picked up. You know what? If you did that and started out with some regular minis and use that dragon as your reward, that's what a lot of people do actually. So they'll do 2 or 3 minis, like regular, like humanoid size minis, and then they'll use a mini, like a bigger mini, just to kind of give themselves a reward. But you know, this has been sitting here, so it's separated. So now I gotta. But that's the other thing about Army Painter is they do have that goo in there. So now that's a little thin still, but that's okay. I don't need it to be super thick. So I'm going to take a little bit of that. It's a little thinner than I would like. I'm going to go ahead and mix it back into some of this basalt gray, and just lighten up the basalt gray with this fog gray. I'm going to go ahead and do that. It's easier to thin up a paint than it is to thicken up a paint. You can never thicken up, but you can always thin up. So thinning up is okay. And I've picked up a little bit of that tan as well. So that's kind of going to knock it back into being closer to the ground color. So doing that is not bad. So we're going to go ahead and do this. And just pick it up. We're gonna just kind of be a little sloppy. And just kind of get those edges. and leave that darker color around the bottom and in the recesses. Just like that. Not really spending too much time getting too fussed about blends or big highlights. But it's going to make it look nice. It's going to do its own thing there. And that kind of makes that stand out, gives a little more interest to the base. No, I can understand not wanting to ruin a $100 figure. Absolutely. So you might try just some techniques here's what you could do. So you could actually say, well, this is how I want it to look at the end, and try out those techniques on cheaper figures. Even get yourself a cheap dragon. Get yourself the cheap Nulzer's gold dragon, and just learn how to do the gold, how you want it to look. And of course, you can always strip it back off. Just dunk it in some LA's Totally Awesome. Like, LA's Totally Awesome wouldn't hurt your resin figure. And then you could strip it back off too. So, there's that. All right. But we could do a sit down, and I could tell you all the secrets of the universe. Answer any questions that you might have. But hit me up on Discord if you got any questions. I need a little bit of advice. So I'm going to use this Ice Storm, which is a blue-gray, very bluish gray. And I'm going to go ahead and hit that. Oh, I didn't actually know that was an option. I figured painted was painted. Yeah, well, you can strip it. Now, like a metal figure you can strip in acetone. Don't use acetone on plastic or resin figures. But you could dump them in some. So I actually have it. Oh, I don't have it in here. Do I have it in here? No, I don't have I have a jug of LA's Totally Awesome. Sometimes it doesn't work real good on, say, spray paints, but it will take the hobby paint right off. So we'll pick up a little bit of that just so it's not so stark. We'll pick that up. We'll go with that. So, and we'll just kind of get really up on the really super high points of this rock. Do something here. We'll just kind of highlight that edge there and let that kind of blend out. Feather it off a little bit and get a little right there. And pick it up just there, a little bit there. And a little bit there. Just out here on the very edge, just lightening it up substantially. There we go. And now we'll let that go, and then we'll get some white glue here, and we'll use a rough brush, one of these ones that's not one of my favorite brushes. We'll get some white glue on there, and we'll put on a couple of tufts. So there's a little white glue. And we'll add a little water to it. And we'll put on some tufts. So I think I want to use some flowers. And I want to use lowland shrubs. And I might use, what else have we got? Something lighter even. Lowland shrubs, swamp tuft, no, that's too close. I want a little bit of contrast here. Jungle tuft. So I'll use some jungle tuft, lowland shrub, and I'll pull this out here. So I'm going to, this is the Army Painter lowland shrub here. So I'm going to peel off a little bit here. Peel this off. Get myself something a little, get myself a set of tweezers that's a little more robust. Peel that off. Now it's a little sticky. It would stick, but I don't trust that stickiness. So I like to, well, maybe I should trust that stickiness. That's pretty doggone sticky. Anyhow, I'm going to get some white glue on the bottom of that. And I'm going to stick that right there. And then I'm going to get another one and put it behind the figure, I think. So right here. Just put that right in there. And so I'm going to put that back in its package. That's the Army Painter lowland shrub there that I used. And it comes, again, just like all these others, it comes on a little piece of parchment paper. And it's got different sizes, larger ones at the top, smaller ones at the bottom. By Army Painter, that one is. And then I'm going to take some jungle tuft because it's a much lighter color and it doesn't have the little. So this is the Army Painter jungle tuft that I'm going to be using. So I'm going to pull a little piece off of there. And I'm going to put that around on the other side of the figure here. Thusly. Let that do that. And then I want a little bit of color because just green would be boring. So I'm going to use this warm mix flowers from Huge Miniatures. I'm going to find a smaller one. So there's a small tuft from them. So that's the warm mix flowers from Huge Miniatures. Support our regional manufacturers here. So put those right in there. Let that go. Let that go. Let that in there. We'll let that dry up. So I think that's pretty cool. I'm going to get a little brush here, get a little water on it, and try to clear out some of that white glue so it doesn't. Now white glue does dry clear and it dries fairly matte as well. So, but I want it to get in there, kind of get in some of those, get in between some of those fibers. And even though it does have a sticky base to it, I've never had a problem with it reacting with the white glue. And the white glue, I think, holds it down a little bit better than the sticky base over time. But what I might also do is I might take a little bit of this white glue, thin it up. Captain Planet means I need to change my water. So I will change my water because you hit Captain Planet. So I'm going to add a little bit of that thin down white glue right there. And I'm going to take some of that flocking that I talked about earlier. And as soon as I put the flocking on, I will change my water because Captain Planet has been introduced to the stream. And I keep knocking stuff off because I take after my cat. All right. So I'm going to get this out here. Here is the flock. Let's see. I need to be able to work here. So raising up here, that's the digital zoom. That means I use my digits to help it zoom. That's a digital zoom. I use my fingers. Right? So take a little bit of this flock here and put it right there. Right there where I've put a little bit of the watered down white glue. And yeah, and that way it kind of helps blend, so it's not just coming right out of the right from the ground color right there. It just kind of gives a little bit of relief, and it's not quite, again, we're looking to avoid stark transitions. So right there. So we'll do a little bit over here as well. Where's my brush here? All right, so I'm going to go ahead and change the water because Captain Planet, by your powers combined, I am Captain Planet. So, change water. Good idea. So there's the water. It's pretty. It needs changing for sure. So we're going to do that. Now we can see the bottom of the water here. So I usually I don't put a whole lot of water in there because I don't want it to go up over the top of my brush. So, so when you clean out your brush, you don't want to put water in. You don't want to put it up over the fuller. About to here is all you need. And then this cup has a nice, this is the Citadel water pot, and it's got this nice little scrubby sort of a thing down at the bottom, so that, you know, when you rub your brush across that, it helps kind of knock the paint out of it. So that's why I like this. And then of course you can get other water cups that have that in it as well to a certain extent. And if you just have a regular cup at home that you like, I would recommend picking up one of these. This is by Game Envy. So this is by Game Envy. It's a scrubby, and it's just got it's made out of silicone, and you just drop it in your favorite cup, and you can use that to scrub out your brush when you're rinsing it. So that's pretty cool. Of course, I get no consideration for talking about any of these products. But this is that's pretty cool right there. I highly recommend that. And Game Envy also has this. If you want to take your painting on the road, pick up one of these Game Envy collapsible cups right there. So it's got a nice convenient place where you can rest your brush. And then you can pop it out. You can even adjust the depth of it. So that's like just the first ring out. And then that's the rest of it. And it's got a little bit of a texture along the bottom. Not much. It's not quite as aggressive as the Games Workshop one. But even though you've got that texture, if you want more texture, drop in the Scrubby and there you go. So that's by Game Envy. And that's a collapsible silicone cup there with a hard bottom and then the wavy round top where you can rest with, you know, the built-in brush rest where you can rest your brush. So, come on. Again, I knock things off of the table here because I'm really good at knocking things off. I get it from my cat. All right, so what else have we got here? What else do we want to do? Do I want to add a little more flocking on there? I might. Couldn't hurt to add a little bit. So collapsible silicone cups for camping. I could get that black scrubby thing and be in business. Yep. Now that's, I got that at the Game Envy booth at, I don't remember if I was at Adepticon or at Gen Con when I got that. But that's kind of a neat little thing. But it does pick up all these weird little fuzzy bits here. It's made out of silicone, so it doesn't react. But you could drop that in a camping cup like you said. Collapsible cup like that, and it gives you a little resistance to clean out, help knock out the paint out of your brush when you clean it. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, so all right, let's see, where did I put that tub of flock? I put the flock right there. Where the flock is the flock. All right, so I'm gonna pick up a little bit more of that white glue. Pick a little more of the white glue up, and we'll put a little more flocking on here. Right here, I think I want to disguise that line right there where the grit meets the base of the figure. So the figure is a single piece casting, and single piece castings sometimes have that little base. If you've got any of the Nolzur's figures or like some of the Reaper figures, they usually have that base that's cast to them. So this has that as well. But, you know, it makes a nice wide surface for gluing it to a secondary base, like a actual sized base, like the round one inch base or a square base, plastic base like that. So it gives a nice amount of surface area for your glue to stick to. So saith the shepherd, so saith the flock. Right? So that'll hide that little bit of little gap there, as well as, again, helping with that transition between the dark, the color of the ground and the rest of that. So it's just kind of interesting. Adds interest to the base. I have some of those and a bunch of frameworks. I got them for $2. The Nulzers and $7.50 for the frameworks. Nice. The frameworks always seem a little expensive to me. I mean, they're really reaching into that Games Workshop level pricing. But the Nulzers, I love the Nulzers because first of all, they're pre-primed. Problem is, it does tend to load up some of the detail on the figures a little bit. So I think there's a lot of detail underneath there. If you were to strip off that primer that they have on there, on the Nulzers, I think you'd see a lot more detail. But for what they are, they're not bad, you know. For the price point and for just having something fun to paint, you know, there's a lot of people. You can always tell the professionals from the amateurs, the wannabes, because there's a lot of people that say nasty things about the Nulzers figures. Oh, they're this, they're that, blah, blah, blah. Well, the thing is, they're for fun. They're for getting people. They're basically trying to get people to paint them. I mean, I think they're designed for people not to paint because I don't think they expect people to paint them. But that being primed out of the package, I think helps people to be a little bit more aggressive in going forward and trying to paint them. Because the plastic itself sometimes doesn't like to. If you were just to paint the bare plastic, it doesn't necessarily like the paint. So, the Reaper figures tend to like the paint, but sometimes you have to put a little bit of a stronger, thicker coat on it first. But the Nulzers figures, because they're already primed, you can use things like the contrast paints. You know, you can use things like the speed paints and get some nice effects. Or you can just do like I do and base mid-tone and highlight on them as well. So I think that is going to be called done. So this little area right here is missing, but again, that shows some of the ground. And then the ground cover, we've got some flocking right here. And then we've got the lowland tufts here. We've got the swamp tuft there, just to give a little bit of variation. Plus we got those nice little flowers there. I always like putting flowers on things. That's kind of cool. You know, kind of a juxtaposition between the violence and the beauty, right? So this guy's obviously at war. And yeah. So. And not one thing of paint. Well, we should get together and we should go on a paint safari. Since you're in the area, we can do that. And then, yeah. So there's one more thing to make this figure completely complete. And you'll notice how I got paint on the edges here. Now, a lot of times I like to paint a dark color of the earth. So whatever color I used for the grit, I like to paint the base color around. But I'm going to black rim the rim. I'm going to do the rim, the edge in black, which is kind of a standard thing you'll see a lot of hobbyists do, just to dress it up and to get rid of all that overpaint right there. So we're going to dress that base edge up in black. But yeah, and not one thing of paint. Well, that can be remedied pretty easily. I don't know if Earl has got any paint over at his place yet still. I know he had a massive sale this week. But I wasn't able to get over there. I think it was on Tuesday, and I stream on Tuesdays, so I always find out about those things after I look at the Facebook, right, on after I get home from work. It's like I could hop in the car and go do this or not. But hopefully somebody found some nice deals over there. The paint wasn't included. Well, poop on him then. Because he probably has, I don't know what paints he has over there. I think he was selling the D&D brand paints, which I think are by Vallejo. And they come in the carrying kits, which is kind of nice. Which are actually really great for people starting out. Those are nice kits, quite honestly. A little pricey. But I think Goblin Traders has some of those kits, actually. A couple of them. But spent a small fortune, but the deals were too good to pass up. Oh, I hear you there. I hear you there. I understand. Absolutely. So, let's see. Alright, so I got a little bit of brush soap here. Has individual bottles like what I use. Okay. So, I'm going to clean out this brush as I do at the end of each session. Or actually after every couple of times usage. It's nice to clean your brushes out after using them. It helps maintain their health. Gets the paint out of the fuller, reconditions the brush a little bit, and it is hair, so if you're using a hair brush, might as well use hair conditioner, right? Depending on what's in this. I'm not sure what's in this brush soap. I don't know if it's just remastered Masters brush soap, but it was by Games and Gears, so it has this neat little carrying case. So I like to get a block of it every now and then whenever I see them at a convention. So I think I've got 2 blocks of it, and as you can see, it lasts for quite a while. But I'm not a heavy user of it either. So it's too bad that he didn't have the paint on sale. But I don't think he carries Pro Acryl, and I want to introduce you to my friend Pro Acryl. It's a little more expensive, but you get a lot more. And I'll show you a Pro Acryl bottle here in just a second, Dylan. So this is a Pro Acryl bottle, right? And this is a Vallejo bottle. This has 17 milliliters in it. This has 22 milliliters in it. I think this is about $1 more, but you get more, and it's just beautiful paint right out of the bottle. It's just the best going. Of course, Army Painter also has a really good product now in their Fanatic line. A lot of people like it, and there's a lot of people that I know that are really great painters that have just fallen in love with it. But also, as I say, I use the things I like, and you'll see a wide range of products on my shelf here. Vallejo, old Army Painter, because I haven't bought into the new Army Painter, but I learned how to use the old stuff pretty well. So Vallejo, Army Painter, Reaper paints. I've got the Reaper stuff. The Pro Acryl, I've got that. I've got craft paints that I use on certain things. So a lot of people will say, "Oh, craft paints you can't paint miniatures with them." Oh, you most certainly can paint miniatures with craft paints. I have half my Bretonnian army was painted with craft paints. So, and then once we do that, we'll dry the brush out and get a nice point back onto it. Now this doesn't have a big belly, so I'm going to do a little teaching here, Dylan. So this is the tip, right? Obviously, this is the fuller. This is the handle. We never want to get paint up into this area. We never really want to get paint much more than about a third to halfway on the bristles. We never want to get paint up over this area here. This is the tip. This area of the brush is the actual hairs is called the belly. Now this particular brush does not have a big belly, but it has a nice point. So let me show you. This is my Citadel wash brush, and as you can see, it has a nice point and a big belly, and it holds a pretty decent tip. Now I don't use that for paint. I actually have I used it for paint? I think I've used it for paint, but as you can see from the mess up here on the fuller, I use it mostly for washes. Here is an army painter brush. This is the monster brush, and I think it's probably equivalent to a number 2 size, but it's also a synthetic. But you can see how it has a nice sharp tip and a big belly. You can do a lot of work with, say, like a number 2 or even a number 3 brush, which they are very much larger brushes. But they hold a lot of paint. They have, and as long as you can maintain a sharp, clean tip, you can do a lot of work with a larger brush. A lot of people get in this mindset when they first start out painting, right? They'll go out and buy these little tiny brushes like this one. This is the precise detail. And they'll think that they've got to sit there and struggle, paint. But the problem with these is a brush like this is for a very specific purpose. It's for 1 or 2 strokes. Most of your work, 80% of your work, is going to be done with like a number 2 size brush, which is like this. So this is for painting large figures, right? It's called the monster brush, but it's a monster brush in the sense that you can load it up to about here. You have a lot of paint in there, and it's got a nice sharp tip, so you can use it to cover a lot of territory. Because what you're looking for when you're painting, especially a large figure like this monster here, like this monthly monster blue dragon that I'm working on, you know, you'll see me use a larger brush to get a lot of coverage on there, right? So this is the standard brush, so you can tell that I can cover a lot of territory with that brush. If I were using just this number 2 that I usually use for the smaller figures, I would never get done with that, right? So big brush for big figures, big brush for little figures, big brush with a sharp tip for little figures. So a lot of people think, they ask me, oh, do you use little tiny brushes? I'm like, no, I do not use little tiny brushes. For some things I do use the tiny brush, but for most things I actually use something that holds a lot more paint, has a good tip, because that's really what counts. If you're trying to paint a figure with little tiny brushes, 1, you're never going to get done. 2, you're going to have problems with your brush because the paint is going to actually dry on your brush, because the less paint you have on the brush, the quicker it dries. That's a problem with acrylics. You don't have those problems with like oil paints. Oil paints is a whole nother world. And I have no idea how to do oil paints on figures. Canvas, sure. On figures, no. So, all right. Well, it is almost 10:30. I'm going to I usually go till 11 on Thursday nights, but I got a late start because I got home from a project. I've got to be on that same project a little earlier than usual tomorrow. So I think I'm going to wrap it up for tonight. But we finished this figure. I'll be taking some pictures and putting it in the Discord. It'll be on my Instagram. And that is from the Hobday and Hicks Elves vs. Orcs Kickstarter, which you got a couple of days left, about a day and a half left, so 40 hours left now. So, pretty cool stuff. Single figures, single piece figures. Really nice, wonderful. Just a joy to paint up because there's not a whole lot of... The detail that is there is necessary, but it's not an overly overwrought over amount of detail, so you're not getting like a lot of little tiny things. You got a pouch, you got a knife, you got his quiver. You've got some nice detail in the folds of the fabric. He's got his armor and weapon, but it's not overly, it's not a Games Workshop figure that's like way too much detail, right? It has the right amount of detail to tell the story of the figure. So, but that is from the Hobday and Hicks Elves vs. Orcs Kickstarter. So check it out. All right. Well, that's it for tonight. YouTube, we are going to stop you